views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
On September 5th, the Justice Department announced President Trump's decision to phase out the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA, an Obama-era executive order put in place protecting illegal youths from deportation. Many have expressed their disdain for the decision, calling it a political move, insensitive and wrong. But those who favor applaud the move and say it's another example of President Trump keeping his campaign promises. Coming up on this edition of Perspectives, my political contributor, Lee Bynes, joins us in studio discussing the political significance of this decision. That's straight ahead on Perspectives with yours truly, Daren Jaime.
What's on your mind?
Let 'em know.
What's on your mind? What's on your mind?
Let 'em know.
Anything relevant to life, you bring it to the table. Whether you make a move solo or a movement with a stable. No fables, you speak on your decisions. Cause in the long run, it's your voice, your views, your vision. Keeping it real with many messages for you to know. This ain't radio, but DJ runs the show. Entertainment, he rocks it. Politics, he locks it. The host with the most would handle any topic. Don't forget to share your perspective with shines of light. Cause it might make a difference in someone else's life.
Make a difference.
What's your perspective?
Express what's in your heart and your mind. Share your perspective.
What's your perspective?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Perspectives. I am Daren Jaime. Of course, we thank you for watching. And of course, you're invited to share your perspective with us every week here on BronxNet's Channel 67. First, by watching. The second, by sharing. How do you go about sharing? Well, you can get us on social media. We're on BronxNet Perspectives on Facebook, and then also on Twitter. And then if you want to get me on my professional page, Daren C. Jaime on Facebook, there you can share some of your comments, your concerns, or ask me to share a perspective. I'll be glad to do that. Or you can share your perspective, and you never know, it might end up as a show idea right here, and we'll make use of it. But coming up on this edition, we go front and center with the issue of President Trump's decision to end DACA. Many people, including New Yorkers, are upset, outraged, to say the least, about the president's decision that would affect so many in the young immigrant population. Joining us now in studio to discuss this is, of course, our political commentator and contributor. You can find him on Open, but now you find him also on Perspectives as well. My friend and brother, who's also the owner of Retrovision Media, Lee Bynes. And Lee, good to have you.
Good to be back.
Not a lot of surprise. The president talked about this during his campaign. He said, listen, if I'm elected, we're going to end DACA. DACA ends, and now people are surprised. Why are so many people surprised?
Because the reality is a lot more stunning than the promises that were made to end this program. I think the people that are affected by this is the 800,000 that they're talking about. I think the ramifications of this issue goes far beyond the 800,000 we're talking about. These people have built families, had children, started businesses. A lot of them have gone into the military to show their appreciation for what Barack Obama tried to do. So when you really take this situation in its totality, we're talking about anywhere from maybe 2, maybe 3 million people being intimately affected by this. What's going on at the kitchen tables around the Bronx, because I understand, I think we have at least 44,000. We went through the numbers over the last couple of days to see which states in America had the highest number of dreamers, okay? Mm-hmm. Because let's use the term for what it is. These dreamers in California by far had the most, but New York had about 44,000. Now we know that there's a lot more undocumented workers in New York City Absolutely. Than that. We're looking at as many as a 500,000, to be absolutely honest. And so what these people are talking about, what they're thinking about, what their plans are people looking for an escape route, a plan B. This plan B is not working out for them. So being kept in this constant state of limbo, of not knowing what their future is going to be, not knowing whether or not they'll be able to support themselves, gain employment. This is not just inhumane. I would say that it goes beyond that. We're looking at something cruel and, quite frankly, cowardly, since the president didn't have the cojones to step before the mic and make the announcement.
And well, I was getting right to that, because he was not the person that made the announcement. Of course, Attorney General Jeff Sessions makes the announcement saying that they're going to rescind the program. What are we to make of the fact that the Attorney General is the person that makes the overall announcement when you know this is coming out of the desk of the White House? You call it cowardly.
Well, it gives the president to pretty much have it both ways. He can say that, look, I'm standing by the rule of law. The law as it stands right now, as far as Barack Obama's executive order that gave these individuals the protections, he's saying that, you know what, well, I don't want to look bad on this, but we have to maintain the rule of law. According to Jeff Sessions, it's like we know a lot of people want to come to the United States, but we cannot let everybody in. There's going to have to be an orderly process. However, that orderly process that should be in place right now, in fact, should have been in place 35 years ago, has led us up to this point right now. So to persecute these individuals who've done no harm to the country themselves. We're talking about some of the best and brightest amongst the undocumented workers. These are the ones who trusted America to give them a lifeline. And the country in and of itself, not the Obama administration, but the follow-up administration is literally turning their back on them. It's kind of like a schizophrenic way of running politics nationwide, because let's look at it this way. This isn't the first thing that Donald Trump has tried to destroy, an item or an issue from the Obama administration. If you go back to healthcare, you go back to the Paris Climate Agreement, you pick it. He's in the process of crushing it. He is literally not doing anything to put in its place, but the sledgehammer he's taking to the previous administration just to wipe out all of the gains that was made is pretty apparent.
We're going to talk about President Obama in the next segment, but I want to go back for a second to Attorney General Sessions, because he was the one who made the announcement. But we do know that the Attorney General and the President have had some real discord. The whole Russia situation, the fact that he did not recuse it, or he recused himself when the president did not want him to recuse himself. How much of this will be a feather in Jeff Sessions' cap, being the front man for DACA, given the fact that we know that the tension in the White House between both the president and the Attorney General is well heated up? Well,
you know what, William Sessions, he's been an opponent of the immigration system for a long time. He's been a very, very strong advocate for getting these deportations underway, giving all the support that DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, and the FBI and ICE and anybody else that's involved in this roundup that's going on. Now, as far as he's concerned, or in his statement yesterday, is that none of these actions are going to change dramatically, simply because of the fact that they're going to stay on board with the hardcore criminals, gang members, M13, the Mexican gangs, et cetera. But as previously mentioned, there has been a lot of DACA individuals rounded up, caught up in this net, and some of them have actually been deported. That is not happening, being widely reported in the news. So anybody who's find themselves in this particular category has every reason to be extremely nervous, because they never know when that knock is going to come at their door.
Let me talk. Give you. We had let's say like this. President Trump went to Twitter, and as he went to Twitter, he had his comments to say about the whole pulling back and rescinding DACA. We're going to pull that up right now. We're going to read the President's Trump. It says, I should say the President's tweet. President Donald Trump tweeting, "Congress now has 6 months to legalize DACA, something the Obama administration was unable to do. If they can't, I'll revisit the issue."
Well, see, the thing is, again, it gives him an opportunity to make a point, but not have to assume any responsibility for it. It's the same situation that happened with health care. He threw the ball into Congress's court. That's the worst place anything can be sent or should be depended on, because Congress moves at a glacial speed, okay? And the expectation for Congress to be able to tackle this extremely difficult issue in 6 months, when they already have to deal with infrastructure, they also have health care still on the table. There's a host of, we got the budget coming up, we have the debt ceiling to deal with it. All of these things have to be done right away. So as well as the storms and the coming up with the money to be able to fund the rebuilding of Houston, is going to happen in Florida, we have no idea. So to throw this additional log on the fire and expect a speedy response is unreasonable. And yeah, these folks that find themselves in this predicament should be very, very worried.
Gotta take a quick break and come back. And of course, my whole sentiment has been, if we can't get health care passed and you can't get a health care bill, how are you gonna tackle both health care and immigration in 6 months? I'll give you something to think about during the break.
Okay.
All right, come right back. We'll have more with Lee. We'll be right back right after this.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb. But if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Underage drinking and driving, the ultimate party foul.
I'm only 17, but I know about investing. Believe in something, buy shares in it, watch it grow. So, what if you could invest in the future? The future of kids, like a stock. Not the kind of stock that's about making money, but a stock for social change. A whole new kind of investment called Better Futures. When you invest, it helps kids go to college. I could be one of the first college graduates from my family. The first philanthropist from my neighborhood. And if I'm the first, then maybe there's a second and a third. Believe in us, invest in us, watch us grow. My name is Sydney, and I'm your dividend.
Continue our conversation talking about the fallout with the DACA decision made by President Trump, actually delivered by Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Our guest in the studio, Lee Bynes, our political contributor and political analyst. I want to go back to a minute talking about the president saying he's got about 6 months. I'll revisit the issue. There's a lot of issues that need revisiting that we probably will never see gotten to. But overall, when we look at how the House and the Senate is going to really deal with this whole matter, we're looking at gridlock.
Well, that's what we've been experiencing for the most part for the last 8 years. And the only problem with it now is that the gridlock is actually going to take place on one side of the aisle, because there's a lot of moderate Republicans who definitely would like to do something positive with this DACA situation. And then there's a lot of hardliners who say, kick them out right now. No delay whatsoever. So that, along with a lot of other issues that's on the agenda, if you will be fought on one side of the aisle. And the Democrats are literally toothless to do anything about it.
I want to say that this decision comes as a result of President Trump's campaign promise that he was going to end DACA, something that was in the Obama administration. As we said at the outset of the show, President Obama introduced the legislation, getting it passed so that way, or I should say using executive order to bring DACA to the forefront. Now, when the decision was made by President Trump to get rid of DACA, President Obama was quick to respond, and let's look at the president's response. This comes from President Barack Obama, who gave these comments right here. We're going to go to that in just a second. Okay, here it is. It says, let's be clear. The action taken today isn't required legally. It's a political decision and a moral question. Whatever concerns or complaints Americans may have about immigration in general, we shouldn't threaten the future of this group of young people who are here through no taking, or I should say through no fault of their own, who pose no threat, who are not taking away anything from the rest of us. And this is the president's statement, President Obama, I should say, who actually initiated this. So let's talk about this for a minute. The president makes a statement. What do you to make, first of all, of his statement? Then I want to go to something else.
You know what? I was quite heartened by the fact that he did come out of the woods, if you will, because most presidents try and let the next administration handle their business the way they see fit and not interfere. But I think this particular piece of legislation, as well as the health care legislation, these are signature issues for Barack Obama. This is a legacy, and he couldn't particularly just stand by on the sidelines and watch what happens. Again, the reason why Barack Obama did what he did is because Congress had failed to do anything comprehensively with immigration at all, and he thought that this particular act could force their hand. It didn't work. The reason why we're talking about this today is let's put this in broader terms, because DACA, the Dreamers, that's just a small portion of this problem. The fact that Jeff Sessions is going after sanctuary cities is one of the reasons why we definitely need a final solution, quite frankly, but something that everybody can live with, work with, and it'll still leave America in a place where it's respected. Now, I want to deal with the sanctuary cities issue because I did some research and wrote up a lot of copy on this and found that Mayor de Blasio, Mayor Bloomberg, as well as Mayor Giuliani, the mayor of Los Angeles, as a matter of fact, and mayors all over the country, Chicago, have set up what they call sanctuary cities, where
and governors
have set up these spaces where a person cannot be profiled. They cannot be looked at and say, let me see your papers, let me see your ID. And if they can't produce them on the spot, they're just picked up. That might sound like a really, really good idea on the surface, and I respect people if their motives were honest. But all three of those mayors and governors across the country have all stated at one time or another, in fact, numerous occasions, that their economies, now let's stick with just New York for number one, right here. The New York economy could not survive without undocumented workers. In other words, it's absolutely necessary to maintain a 2-3-tier system in the city specifically that could make dinner affordable. Without the undocumented worker, if they had to pay them real wages, and in the restaurant industry and construction industry, you see it all around. People from other spaces on this planet are here working off the books, and if that couldn't happen, you could add $25,000 to $30,000 to the price of a house. You can add $5-10 to the price of an entree in a restaurant. The reason why the New York economy has been able to function as well as it has is because of the undocumented worker.
Well, walk me through this here, because we talked about this on a previous show where statements were made out of the White House that particularly referred to the African American community, saying that the African American community and Ms. Huckabee Sanders made the statement that the African American community would benefit strictly from this move.
In yesterday's press conference that followed the announcement by Jeff Sessions, Huckabee Sanders came out and said on not once, twice, or actually 3 times that the African American community, who is suffering from high unemployment, would actually benefit if a substantial number of these dreamers were deported. I saw that and I was extremely upset, because I saw that as a means of dividing and conquering by pitting one ethnic group against another, and it was blatantly obvious what they were trying to do, and I'm not really sure whether or not a lot of African Americans were paying attention, focus, or buying that dog whistle politics that was being established yesterday. But I'm certain that most people that did pay or paying close attention to this have determined that they see what's happening. They see what's going on. They know that the Trump administration doesn't have all that much love for the African American community or anybody else. That's I hate to say this because I don't know what's in the man's heart. I can only work with what I see his actions, and it looks to me as that it's a very, very insensitive move. It was a move primarily just to placate his base, shore up the most conservative members of his party, and the dreamers are going to take a hit for this.
Come back with more with Lee Bonds. We'll be right back in a few seconds.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Behold, the angry giant. Behold, the angry giant. Behold, the angry giant. Behold, the angry giant.
It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Back here on Perspectives, our guest Lee Bonds. I want to talk a little bit with the few minutes that we have left. Now that DACA has been taken off, the president ran on this campaign promise. What does this do going forward politically for him, given the fact that he will be seeking re-election and he will be able to say, listen, I said I would get rid of DACA. I got rid of DACA. Does this enhance his base even more?
Doubtful. I think as time moves on, and I've been saying this on every program since I've been here, the primary concern for the president right now is not DACA, it's not healthcare, it's not infrastructure, it's not even tax reform or tax cuts. His primary concern lies solely in the investigation that's going on with Russia. However, these are great distractions because it takes our eye off the ball. It keeps him in a better light as he possibly can. That's one of the reasons why he went after the LGBT community in the military. None of these things were having any problems on the stability of the country, the safety of the nation, or anything like that. But for some reason, they just popped up on the horizon, and we have to deal with them. But the investigation is still going on. You say that he's going to be looking at election in 2020. I'm not certain that that's going to happen, and if he does, he will be primaried. So all of these distractions, all of these the problems that he's throwing up for almost every community. If you're a senior, you're going to get hurt. If you're poor, you're going to get hurt. If you happen to be a minority, you will get hurt. If you happen to live in a flood area, you will get hurt. I don't see how any of these distractions are going to amount to more than the troubles that he's already facing in his personal and business life.
So you think Russia takes paramount issue going before the next presidential
It may
election?
not be publicly or of a daily news value in the 24/7 news cycle, but it's one of those running themes in the background. It's sort of like having a mild headache that an aspirin won't solve. It's just there. And until the president can get some sort of certainty that the investigation is going to stall itself out, that they can't find enough information to nail on him, he's going to be throwing these little red herrings out there pretty much on a weekly basis.
I mean, before, as soon as he got elected, we heard everybody say impeachment, and we've heard the word impeachment. I'm just not optimistic about anything about impeachment because, as much as we talk about impeachment, the process, how long it would take, what it would take to get Republicans to roll over on the President of the United States, given the fact that he is a Republican, I'm just not as optimistic as people are purporting that impeachment is going to be the way the thing's going to happen.
Well, you know what? The fact that the Democrats literally have no power whatsoever, and we were all talking about a Republican-controlled House and a Republican-controlled Senate, I still think that once it's a certainty that he's going to have difficulties passing tax cuts and tax reform. In fact, the president will be in Indiana either today or tomorrow with a Democrat on board. to talk about tax cuts. Once it becomes apparent that that's not going to happen, I think he's going to lose a lot of support money-wise, a lot of support politically. His approval numbers are in the tank and can only continue to go south. So it would be my estimation that he's in trouble. Whether or not they'll be able to impeach him, and if they do, keep in mind, not necessarily anything criminal, but they can impeach him for obstruction of justice. And there's enough information and evidence being gathered as we speak that could make that happen. So again, the case to be made for him breaking the law by obstructing justice, or the other avenue is that he's in so much trouble that he doesn't have the clout to be able to threaten Republicans with the primary challenge, then they'll turn on him.
And you said something very interesting. You feel like he'll be primaried in the Republican.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, 100%. Even if he has the guts and if he has the wherewithal to stick around, the only way that he can stay afloat is to continue this chaos, and that's essentially what we're facing. And when you see what's going on in Afghanistan, you see what's going on in Syria, you see what's going on in Yemen, the quiet war nobody's talking about, as well as what's happening on the news right now, North Korea. No, his leadership is definitely in question, because people are not only questioning his leadership, but they're questioning things like his stability, his mental capacity to run the White House and be in control of this country.
And that's not just Democrats talking, of course, that's coming out of the Republican Party as
Absolutely.
well. Lee Bonds, that's why we bring you here, baby. Good to have you.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Lee Bonds, our political contributor here on Perspectives as well as Open, and we thank him for sharing with us here today. Thank you for watching. Listen, that about ends this edition of Perspectives. For those of you that want to share your perspective, listen, make sure you do. Catch us on social media, hit us up via email, send something to the show, let us know what you think, and of course, we'll be glad to take it and share it with somebody else. For all of us here on the Set of Perspectives, I'm Daren Jaime, encouraging you to share your perspective with somebody else, because you don't know. Your perspective just might help somebody else in life. Take care. God bless. We'll catch you next week.
On your decisions, cause in the long run it's your voice, your views, your vision, keeping it real with many messages for you to know. This ain't radio, but DJ runs the show. Entertainment, he rocks it. Politics, he locks it. The host with the most would handle any topic. Don't forget to share your perspective with shines of light, cause it might make a difference in someone else's life.
Make a difference.
What's your perspective?
Express what's in your heart and your mind. Share your perspective. And I can't change, even if I tried, even if I wanted to. My love, my love, my love, she keeps me warm. 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 She keeps me warm.
We are neighbors and best friends.
I love my sister.
My heart doesn't see race. Love is love.
Our family is no less than any other family.